So our next final segment of this conclave is also an equally interesting conversation where we are talking about social media branding, thinking beyond the wave for a viral success. Another very interesting topic, and some eminent panel members who are joining here for this discussion. So first of all, let me introduce our moderator of the session, David Appasamy, Head Brand and Strategy, Social Beat. Mr. Appasamy has experience of over 35 years in senior positions covering general management, business strategy, marketing management, advertising, sales, digital marketing in both corporate and social sectors. He is involved with the Internet Governance Forum in various ways and is recognized for expertise in Internet governance policy. Our warm welcome to our moderator, David Appasamy. And now let me welcome our speakers of the session, and let me introduce them in an alphabetical order. Our first speaker I introduce, Mr. Bharat Dhuppar, real estate and hospitality consultant, Zuphoria. He comes with an overall experience of more than 25 years spread over hospitality and real estate. Bharat has an exemplary track record of delivering growth and has immense experience in product development, brand building, and sales. This year, he ventured on his own as a consultant under the brand Zuphoria, currently consulting one real estate project in Mumbai and a hospitality project in Switzerland. Our next panel member, I introduce Jayanta Barua, Head of Marketing Communications, Signature Global, a self-motivated marketing professional of more than 20 years in marketing communication strategy. Jayanta Barua has demonstrated success in brand management, market positioning and visibility, celebrity endorsements, annual marketing plan budgeting, advertising, and his expertise lies in developing winning businesses and marketing strategies. Our next panel member is Ms. Poonam Prahlad, Director, Bonhide Digital, who has more than 15 years of experience in consumer marketing, sports, brand communication, campaigns, and digital marketing. She is adept at building brands. She understands and anticipates trends that shape consumer mindsets and behaviors, and is an astute thinker who spearheads the digital marketing agency that specializes in internet and social media marketing targeted towards the online Indian consumer. Our next and final member is Mr. Sairam Ranganathan, National Head, Digital Services WaveMaker. He has over 18 years of experience in building better consumer experiences, having worked in offline and digital media strategy as specialist as well as integrated practice. He has successfully set up digital practices, scaled it up, and driven solutions in different phases of digital marketing in India. Our next and final member is Mr. Sumit Lakhani, Chief Marketing Officer, Office Space Solutions Private Limited. And he has been with Office at the inception as part of the core management team and heads demand and supply side function at AWFIS. His key responsibility areas include sales marketing, real estate acquisition, fundraising, and strategy. And under his aegis, the company has grown to become one of the most recognized and reputed consumer-focused brands in the co-working industry. So this is our eminent panel, and let me now hand it over to our moderator of this session, Mr. David Appasamy. I hand it over to you now.
Thank you, Sapna, and thank you for that fulsome introduction of everybody. Good evening and welcome, especially to the panelists and of course to the audience. I must congratulate you, Sapna and Realty Plus, on putting this together in a very meaningful way. The other thing which is really interesting is the timing of this event and panel discussion. We've come out of 2 years of, the COVID pandemic, and we're in a position where things are either about to improve, but sometimes you wonder, are they really improving? Inflation is surging, the economy is plateauing. At the same time, there are a number of sectors that are doing well. It's a very confusing time. And most interestingly, the consumer has become frugal. They've become very, very careful in terms of how they spend their money. Now, of course, the upper echelon, right? The ones who are in the high net worth area, for them, they're not price elastic. They can afford to buy when they want to buy. But the middle and lower has become very, very, very conscious. We are having this discussion in such an environment, and we're discussing social media branding And we're talking about how consumers have changed and what the trends can be that we can exploit. It's a very, very interesting time to have this discussion. What I'd like to do in terms of our time together is to first open the floor to each individual panel member to have their opening remarks, and they can base it on the topic as well as the current time that we are in. And then we will start the discussion around a few questions that we have. So can I invite Bharat to go first?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So just to say about social media, I think so it's something where what we used to call word of mouth publicity. It's word of mouth publicity with the wings now. So while as word of mouth used to be a little bit here and there, with social media, it's become like in a speak of a second, it's everywhere. So I think it's a necessary evil which is there. And while it's an evil, it also helps all of us to improve ourselves.
Thank you, Bharat. Jayanta, would you like to give your opening remarks?
Hi, this is Jayanta. I think social media is for a few years now. It is getting, it is evolving, and it is the one thing I think where like people, a lot of brands really keeping a watch in it. They're very, very crucial, very, very crucial. As a brand, Signature Global, we have observed, we have seen how it has helped us to converting the leads, because before the prior session Ashwinder was taking care of, how you are reducing your cost in the leads form. So this is really going to help. If we talk about a branding, so when you talk about like when your lead closures, you're generating leads from your various campaigns, here it is going to be to create your brand, you throw your content, have something around your brand. It's very, very important.
I'd like to interject at this point before Poonam makes her opening remarks. I'd just like to say that social media is a space where everybody is having conversations.
Yes.
And they're having conversations about everything. And if we are not there as part of the conversation, we can't help shape that conversation about us. So it is a great place to influence in such a way that people view us positively. But at the same time, we need to remember that on digital platforms, we're not a giant brand talking to consumers. We're all equal. We're having conversations. You're a brand citizen talking to an Indian citizen. So the way we talk to them also changes. So it's a very, very interesting time that we live in. Having said that, Poonam, can we hear from you?
Hi, everyone. So yeah, this is what we do every day. And for the last probably 15 years, I've been doing this, is making social media posts. You know, it started with a picture, put a picture, write something, just write something, to a place where, you know, it has become so complex that, you know, we are thinking, oh, Instagram has launched this new feature. How do we get that? You know, how do we really make a lot more conversations, lot more lead generation? How can we leverage that? So a point where, you know, we started with, to a point where, you know, probably there are 15 social media platforms with probably 22 consumer cohorts, and with each of them having their own languages and culture to communicate to. It's no longer a very simple thing. You know, it's become complicated, and to use it really well, I think it's very, very critical for brands to understand what exactly do we need from this social media exercise. Because a lot of times, you know, we are consulting brands and businesses, and we realize that, you know, while we are discussing everything, that's great, but in the end, you know, we should have just one focused approach on what should we drive from this entire social media exercise. So yeah, I guess, you know, we'll hear more from that. Thank you.
Thank you, Poonam. I completely agree. What often happens is people get lost in the creativity and the way you can communicate and all of that, and the business objective gets lost. And I think as long as we remain focused on the impression we want to create and the outcomes that we want from the campaign, things work. Now I'd like to invite Sairam, another veteran from the industry, to give his opening remarks.
Thanks, David. Indeed, echo one sentiment. I think it's best of the times, most interesting. So fundamentally, if we see, and this is my personal opinion, today the media in the social media has become much bigger, right? I mean, it is capable of influencing elections. It's capable of influencing the choice of things that we watch, the choice of things we buy, and so on and so forth, right? And what fundamentally makes it interesting and challenging for us as marketers is like, you're not competing. Like, for example, if I'm a Coke or a Pepsi, I'm not competing with beverages. I'm competing with your 2000 plus friends, the 2000 plus news sites which are there, all the content creators who are there. You're competing with everybody, you versus rest of the world in the social feed. And what, probably about a 5 to 6 seconds. So imagine 50,000 plus competitors, 6 plus seconds. How do you make yourself relevant? I think I would like to really focus on how do you really identify the relevant audience, and how can your brand provide the relevant experience. I think it's about bringing these two. That's where a win-win for the marketer and the consumer. It's all about relevancy in today's age.
Absolutely, Sairam. And I would add one other element to that, which is the kind of content we put out. I think today it's mostly video and reels, and what you say in that first 2 seconds to be able to get their attention. I think that makes a huge difference. It is a challenge, but what is incredible is the creativity of the human mind, right? Every day we see very fresh content, which is very interesting. So it is both a challenge and an opportunity. Now I'd like to ask Sumit to give his opening remarks, but before he goes, I'd like to say I'm so happy to meet you here because we're opening our office in Bombay in an office space.
Perfect. Love to host your teams. Great. Great.
Yeah, and I'll be visiting it tomorrow.
Perfect. So good evening, everyone. Great to be here in company of such august individuals. Always a pleasure to be speaking on interesting topics. I echo everyone's sentiments on social media. I structured some of my thoughts around on thinking beyond the wave for a viral success in social media branding. What I think is, if one is in for a long game, then sustainable marketing is the only way for brands viable success on social media. It is important for brands to develop much more deeper relationships with their customers in a very consistent fashion to create long-term affinity. Now, one can genuinely get lost in the whole wave of the social. So the only way this can be attained is when a brand makes the effort to understand who their customers are, create a quality content that resonates with these customers on a very consistent basis. I think in the whole, rat race, running behind viral success, one can get fooled by, the vanity metrics of number of views, likes, shares, and comments without getting into a deep understanding on who they're coming from and how can they contribute to the brand building and business success in long term. It's more, smarter to have, other panelists also mentioned on achievable goals and create a very strong community of loyal consumers. So who believe in your product, endorse your brand, and bring referrals, then to have a blip of a viral success.
Thank you, Sumit. You couldn't have put it better, really. This whole thing about viral success, it captures people's imagination, and viral success is much celebrated and all of that. But that happens because of the quality of the content, and usually because it resonates with every consumer. Now, whatever goes viral or not, it doesn't matter. I think as businesses and brands, our focus has to be on our business objectives and what is the outcome that you want from social media. And if we focus on that, and we're able to do excellent storytelling, then we will have a success where people relate to us, like you're saying. They have to be able to emotionally relate to us, to trust us with their money for a lifetime's investment. And that's what happens in real estate, right? So it's a question of how well we can do that storytelling for them to believe they can trust us, that we are people like them who understand their needs, and therefore they can buy from us. Now, having said that,
David, can I add something there?
Go ahead, Bharat.
it's no more about storytelling. It is also about what they experience today. Gone are the days of storytelling. You can't get away with storytelling now.
Yes, but the thing also is, when we talk about experiential marketing and all of that, it can start with a very good story.
Yeah.
And the story itself is an experience. If you have a person relating their experience, and there are a number of people who are in a similar situation, they find it compelling. So
Yes,
it becomes a kind of a, what shall I say, a residual experience for them, and it can make
right.
a difference.
True.
We'll now move on to the questions, and it's going to be really interesting because we're at this interesting time, right? Because the people are getting more cost conscious. They will think, probably now, in the past, they used to think 10 times before making an investment. Now they'll think twice that, because it is a lifetime investment. And today there's a climate of uncertainty and a kind of a cautious, frugal mindset. So especially in the affordable and the mid segments, how important is it to build your brand to be able to do well in performance marketing? Remember, performance marketing will only perform if people believe in the brand. So on social media, and Sairam put it well, it's more the media part than the social part today. How important is it to build your brand as opposed to having just project-focused performance marketing? So Bharat, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I think so. Again, while building the brand, it is important what experience you give in. While as all of us in real estate want to build a brand, but it always starts with some project where you start with your first project, your second project, or whatsoever, and it's the experience you give them there. Now, if a customer does not have a good experience, or maybe the product which you have delivered is not good, the entire exercise will go futile. And that's when you start needing people who are specialists in the social media circle, so that even if you have to improve later, you need these guys to build your brand. And so one is the experience which is there. One is also the how to make amends if something has gone wrong, right? So it's not just the experience and not just the first time. So yeah, so it's important. And social media is not something, it's a science after all. And at real estate, we might know our business, but we definitely need experts from the social media who can then help us out and build a brand then.
Yeah, thank you, Bharat. I think you put that across very well. Social media is just what it is, right? It's social in a sense. So it is based on human insight and human interaction. Right. And to be able to gauge where the other person is and respond to them is a very important thing. And the point that you made about if something goes wrong, how we deal with it, right, is even more important on social media, especially if you're responding to a negative post. Because you're not responding to one individual, the whole world is watching what your response is going to be. So you're literally playing to the gallery. It's like you're standing on a stage and speaking, and everybody's watching, making value judgments. Thank you.
Sometimes you need experts to do that.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Jayant, would you like to weigh in?
From me, it is like brand. Product definitely comes much after. So for me to create the ecosystem, to make understandable the brand is very important. So more you will talk about the brand, create the ecosystem, whether your product is performing, your product is not performing, thus all comes much later. So as far as I agree with sir, the experience, how anybody is going to experience. So if we able to capture those moments and show to the outer world, and people can experience the same feeling what individual is sharing, right? So that plays a very key and important role as far as myself, our brand is concerned. Now, when you talk about a signature global, what we have done well. So end of the day, for the last 6 years, we are selling only the brand. Products are byproducts. So product X, product Y, product Z. So it's all about the expectations, whatever we have created on a brand perspective, whether we talk about a reality, reliability, responsibility, and do we resonate around these words or not? Whenever we are communicating, are these lines have been taken care of not? Whether people are talking about similar lines or not? We have get very simple line called "Apna ghar to apna hi hota hai." Is it getting around the people well or not? We are we had a recent line called "Kiraye se Azadi." Very simple line. People are using in their daily thing, but how many people have used it, and how many people are using a hashtag, talking on those lines? So is it getting content is getting putting well in the social media or not? And then it comes my product. My product is coming with XYZ feature. It helps. Signature Global has came out with a brand. So for me, the social media platform uh, to promoting your brand, the company per se, is very important. So in whatever formats are concerned, like whether it's testimonial, whether you talk about the company's credential, how well you are creating your content and putting in that platform, and how well you are using a Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Snapchat, how well you are using Taboola for your blog contents, how well you are using Quora. You are creating the entire 360-degree. So initially, when we were doing advertising or in a marketing communication, we were talking about 360-degree marketing. Now, as far as I don't know, I think in digital it's a 360-degree. So कहाँ से मैं उस आदमी को पकड़ूंगा, कहाँ से किस भाषा में पकड़ूंगा. So I'm trying LinkedIn for the last couple of years, where what I require to show to Janta, what I require to show to general public. I'm just showing like what my company is doing. My company is nice to his employees, doing some great work, a great certification. So there, my ad won't work. My ad won't work. Signature Global. So testimonials won't work. So anything around employees that is happening. Instagram is more of the like reels, posts, stories, more of youth. In a 15-seconder, how you are going to communicate and what you are going to communicate. You are going to communicate about a brand, or you're going to communicate about the product. If your brand is well heard of, so your probably a single ad, maybe through Google, through YouTube, will work.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, dear. So it's very clear. Brand first and product later. And I think one common theme that is running through, starting with Bharat, is of course this whole thing about the experience. And you can say that is the brand experience. So Poonam, would you like to add to the conversation?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think today what's happening is, while the brands want to portray themselves the way, ABC of what our vision is, real brands or true brands are being built with what consumers are experiencing and they are talking about on social. And in the last 3-4 years, what we have done is we realized that when we put all of these ORM, CRM together and we listen to what our consumers are saying, especially in real estate brand, we realized that there are like 10 attributes which we saw almost every single consumer who has commented on our real estate brands has consistently been saying it. And that was the first food to thought of what kind of social media communication, conversation, and brand communication we want to do. And kind of that helped, because those were very true consumer insights. And we build a campaign like More to Love. It was more than what a brand thinks that they are giving it to the consumer, or the consumer thinks that they are giving it to the brand. And they were like beautiful 10 attributes which fit really well, and it really added value. So I guess yes, we want to build a brand, and all of us want to do it. And yes, experiences are real, but brand has to strategically intervene at regular intervals with that consumer and build that storytelling, which David was saying, that how do we navigate, nurture, and build this communication that it's a win-win for both what consumer experiences and they are talking, and what the brand really wants to be.
Thank you, Poonam. Thank you. That was very well put. It is up to us to be able to steer the conversation, because especially when it's about us, we need to channel it in a way that we want based on what we're trying to achieve. Very nicely put. Sairam, looking forward to your comments.
So I think there is no doubt that experience is at the center of this category, right? I mean, this is something which people buy a house once in a lifetime, right? As in, it's not like some of the other categories where there is a multiple usage or something like that. So in this entire, there is no doubt that brand building is so important. I would just like to focus on one very important element which got discussed, which is this entire piece around advocacy, right? Who are the best advocates? The existing consumers, right? And if one were to take their experiences, I'm sure it's a mixed bag, right? There will be extremely happy people and the extreme opposite end. But if one were to look at the extremely happy set and take that as a key asset, that experience is getting converted into an asset, that's such a great way to connect with prospective consumers due to multiple reasons, right? One, there is a human angle, and two, there is a certain believability. I mean, imagine a brand coming and saying, I provide the best experience, vis-a-vis existing consumers speaking about it. And imagine if one of my friend has experienced something, the chances that I will believe that vis-a-vis seeing hundreds and thousands of ads across whichever is the digital, offline, whichever is the platform, that kind of thing. So that piece of advocacy as a part of brand building, I think is really gaining significance compared to today, say even maybe 10 years, 15 years ago. Like even in this conversation, it was mentioned in the beginning, I think by Bharat, right? That social media is the online is the word of mouth on wings equivalent kind of thing. It's never so true. I mean, when you bring something like advocacy from the angle of existing consumers, I mean, it's a micro moment like taking your first key, the big key which is given in a picture is taken of the consumers and that gets posted in social media. That's such a, for me personally, I mean, when I was thinking about this topic, that was one of the first images which came to my mind. And I like sort of, when I had done that, when I purchased my first home, I'd gone and put it in social media. A lot of friends asking me about how's been the experience. And I said, typical experience, first 1 month you go through whatever you go through, but then you start enjoying living in that place which you call a home.
Yeah, I think that's one of the threads that's come through very strongly. Bharat talked about it in terms of word of mouth on wings. Jayant talked about it in terms of testimonials. You're talking about it as advocacy. But most certainly, it is the experience of people who have trusted the brand that they listen to for themselves to have the trust in the brand. And I think the bedrock of any real estate company brand is that ability to get the trust of the consumer, because they're investing, as you said, once in a lifetime, and they're putting in probably their entire life savings and then some into it, right? So they need to be able to say, this is the right place, this is the right company that I can buy from. So it's a very big ask. And unless we build the brand in such a way that they are able to trust us, and the route can vary, you know, the advocacy, the testimonials, other people's distilled experience and all of that, it becomes, the route can vary and the kind of content we put out can vary, but they all go towards building that brand trust, so to speak. Sumit, your opening comments?
Sure. See, every one of us, like to also keep life simple. We go back to the basics. The whole tenets of social media marketing, like you guys mentioned, and I would say for all marketing and brand building remains the same: storytelling, relatability, and consistency, right? So when we talk about the projects, while it's an important part of the story, but real conversation is about how it can better your life, whether it's a residential or a commercial project. That's why, in addition to showcasing in our spaces, we try to offer some real life glimpses of the community events, the customer stories, the meetups, even to an extent that what's cooking at the cafe. So then the whole story can come together if you're clear on who you as a brand and consistently keep delivering on that. So what you say, how you say it, your visual language, tonality, everything needs to tie in together. So within our own, flex spaces, we show how it can make life easier. How can people, work more collaboratively and with fun and network stronger. Even, or if you look at the light-hearted movement marketing content, what we do is connected to work or corporate life. Finally, I think the thing we constantly believe in is that the content needs to be relatable for the TG. That's where understanding the TG it becomes very important. Last few years, if you talked about it's even till about 2 years back, we used to all talk about only the millennial kind of mindset, but now it's about the Gen Z. I honestly can go out on a limb and say that human behavior may change, but human nature doesn't.
Yeah.
So while Gen Z may be a more conscious generation, but the desire to do good has been in every generation. So luckily for us, our TGs are also our co-worker, so we get a lot of insights up very, very close.
Thank you so much, Sumit. I think you touched upon a very, very important part, and that is at the end of the day, we are selling. You could always say we're selling apartments, flats, products, but you're selling homes. And in very real terms, people invest not just their money, they invest their emotions, their hopes, their dreams, everything into it to be able to build a home. So the importance of showing people actually living out their dreams in whatever we are doing on social media becomes vital, because that is a vicarious experience for them. That's saying, I could live like that. So showing people in everything that we do, even if it is showing apartments or whatever, and not just an empty flat, but a place where people are living and enjoying their lives, becomes vital. The human element, as you said, doesn't matter what generation, it comes down to the same common parameter of common humanity. Thank you for that. Now, we've talked about the importance of experience. We talked about the importance of people and projecting the kind of things that we're selling, where they can make a home that is something that will enjoy and that will meet their aspirations and dreams and all of that. Now, I'm not sure how many of you have actually used the new age tools, the things that are the cutting edge, to be able to project this really well. I'm talking about, AR and VR. And of course, we did videos and walkthroughs of spaces and all of that, that's there. But AR and VR, where you can actually get an experience, that's one thing. And then moving on from there, the metaverse itself. Is there anybody who's actually done things in these areas? I'd like to know.
I have done a little bit, but mostly people I have noticed, as far as real estate is concerned, eventually want to come to the site and discuss it.
Yes.
Right, because it's a lot of investments for whether it's a 5 lakh rupee flat or a 5 crore rupee flat. At the end of the day, the guy who's buying it, for him, it's the largest investment he would ever do. So yes, at the end of the day, they're all wanting to come to the site and physically look at things.
Yeah, I think you can take that as a given, because they want to see tangible evidence of what they're going to be buying.
Yes.
It has to be, in front of them.
Absolutely.
But the AR and the VR can create the interest to deliver them to the site.
Yes,
So
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Sairam, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I mean, see, it's an evolution, right? Like, say 15, 20 years ago, if somebody had told us that you can buy shoes and clothes online, I mean, we wouldn't have believed it, but today it's happening, right? Having said that, the new generation, there might be some hybrid kind of thing which could happen. And that experience could be a AR, VR experience. It could be a metaverse. It could be anything else. As of today, it's still an aid. I mean, that will sort of help you to push so that you go to the location and check out the project or check out the site in an actual physical way. But my fundamental belief is that there are things which have changed in other categories. So I'm being open to the possibility that there could be very well a situation where somebody wears a VR and is able to virtually experience and pay for it virtually using a crypto.
I will add to that. So when we do some international sales, definitely it helps. And people do it without even visiting the site. So
Right.
you're right there. It is beyond our aid. It is, yes, things are changing now. But if people are there within the city, they would still love to come there.
Yeah, I think the vast majority would, in any case, want to visit a site unless they are in distant geographic locations.
Yeah.
But if we can give them the experience of what their life there could be in a metaverse home, where they could, walk through and experience it, so to speak, it would be a different thing altogether. And I think over time, we might see some migration there as things evolve. But the metaverse may be too far out at this point of time. But AR and VR may be easier in terms of execution.
Yeah,
Anybody
but
else?
yes,
go ahead.
I was just reading about it that, a New York-based metaverse real estate firm actually bought, around $4.3 million of land on metaverse. And there are two companies which are already doing it. And, what's very interesting is that, all of us will do it just for the experience bit, because our virtual avatars are there. We need to create that experience. And social media is very high on engagement. What's new, what's cool, and what's happening triggers a lot of conversation and connection. So, probably not to go and buy $4.3 million, but definitely to trigger a conversation.
Yeah, or to have a virtual experience.
So David, I have a point over here. I think, probably it's a matter of, couple of years, maybe, not more than, 2. The way hybrid work culture, came around because of COVID, at least a lot of, the metaverse conversation is going to get a leap. The AR and VR had been around for a long time. There had been some level of adoption, but somehow, it just got stagnant. Maybe the next leap around on metaverse is going to happen. We are seeing, that people are getting very interested in doing phygital meetings, right? Because a couple of team members are there in the office, couple of them are, at home, and this is going to be the way of life in future as well. So getting these meetings around using your virtual avatars on metaverse may turn out to be, a kind of a very real scenario. And it's gonna also help on a more, on a productivity side as well, because people who are working from home will also start feeling that they are contributing around on the whole thing. It's just that the virtual avatars right now will start looking more real, right? As in, it will start looking, my virtual avatar will start looking much more closer to what I look like. The surroundings of that meeting room will start looking much more real, then a bit more friction around on the whole thing. So it has a genuine kind of a use case.
Yeah, it's very early days yet.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how it evolves. I think there are only 80,000 people on the metaverse at this point of time or something. The last time I checked, I think that was the number. Jayanta, go ahead.
Yeah, David. So now we are talking about this AR and VR thing, right? So AR, VR is there in market for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Okay. So now what people want to experience the product. So maybe around a year back from a COVID, what will happen when people were reluctant to visit sites. So there definitely this video blogging thing came into the picture. The area which I'm into around 2.5 years back. So I'm having any broker, anybody who is selling real estate is talking about the product as per individual capacity. Whether somebody is shooting it by mobile, somebody is using a camera, somebody is using a drone. So when we talk about a destination, a site, a location, which is available in social media and thick and thin, in all sizes, that we are also doing it. When we're talking about a particular destination, showing what infrastructure is coming, where the product will come, what are the other brands are there, whether a brand is talking, whether a broker is talking. Recently, as we were talking about the making experience a brand, so one destination, one is getting aware through various kind of video blogging available in the social media sites. Now, recently we have started an experience center, probably which will be ahead than this AR and VR. We have kept a hologram table, which we have got developed from Bangalore. So it is showing a piece of land where your entire unit how will come out with. So we have placed one product and another product also is in pipeline. We are also using 3-dimensional hologram wall, which is showing you the product by using those glasses. So this is one of the recent experience we have started showing to the people, real-time experience. So how people are going to win the project. It's a next version of a walkthrough. So how both are a separate product. In a single plot, how many plots will come up? How will the plot will look like? What will be the depth of the product? What is the size of the unit? So which you used to see in a model shape some year back models. So we have created those in hologram. So entire thing will come out. So this we recently started, and it's just giving a very good feedback and reviews from our consumers, the people who are coming to experience it. We are showcasing our all kind of how construction thing happens, right from plinth level to gauging, then plaster, chicken meshing, how a plaster thing is happening. So entire experience how we create a product. So we are using this 3D hologram table and this 3D hologram wall, which is giving very decent eyeballs. I think very few, I think people in the country is having those, but we are getting a brilliant experience.
Thank you, Jen. Now, the point here also is that increasingly, somebody mentioned Gen Z. I think Sumit talked about Gen X to Gen Z and so on. What's happening is these kinds of tools and technologies are becoming so much a part of mainstream life that if companies are not evolving with the times and using technologies that capture the imagination of consumers and enhance their experience, then it's not adding to the company's image. It's not adding to the brand cachet. But a company that's at the cutting edge and able to provide all of these enhances both the experience of the consumer and the brand's image. So it's going to be a key aspect of how we evolve as marketers going forward. And thank you for sharing that, because that is the next step in terms of a walkthrough. So what we'll do now is move to the next question. We've gone through 2 so far. And the next one is to do with the marketing funnel. We're all familiar with the marketing funnel, the awareness, the consideration, and the conversion. The performance marketing, of course, primarily focuses on the bottom end of the funnel, on the conversion. Now, how best have you been able to use social media for the first 2, for the awareness and for consideration? What has worked well for you, and could you give examples from there in terms of building the brand? So
I'll give you one example in terms of real estate. I think so, which a lot of people, which in any of the companies, what they do is they leave it either to some junior person to respond to any kind of social media, or they leave it to some executive doing it. I think this is a serious thing which one needs to note. Any kind of responses to social media has to be from the topmost level. A person who's in an authority and who can really answer the question in a proper manner. One of the things which I had done, I remember in one of the projects I was associated with at Omkar, where some people started mentioning a lot of negative comments about the project. So I personally put as a chief marketing officer, I had personally put my mobile number there on a public site and told them, please come and meet me and I'll answer you. If you are satisfied, please go and tell the others. Otherwise, whatever you want to feel, you go and tell. Some people came to me, and after that, whenever anybody wrote negative, they were the guys replying, saying that, why don't you go and speak? Right? He will answer you. Why don't you pick up the phone and speak? So a lot of competition or other people who would tend to write negatives also kept shut after that. So I think so that kind of a boldness is required if you want to handle social media. That's one. Second thing is, similarly, I have seen that sometimes it can, I had a recent example with booking.com in one of the hotel projects, where a customer came in and he had a double occupancy and 3 people were staying. We charged them for 3. And the guy went ahead and gave us a very negative comment. Now, it's easy when a negative comment comes in, you know the reason, but it was important to respond back And I think so a timely response and response back is also important. Though it doesn't change your rating, but at least some people who read the reviews understand it. So I think so a very serious effort has to be made to take the social media seriously, because you might spend excess of money in marketing, but if you are not responsive and timely responsive, then it can backfire.
Thank you, Bharat. I think a little earlier, I mentioned how important it is to be able to make sure that the quality of your response on social media is not just to the person in front of you, but is because you are protecting your reputation. The whole world is watching how you're going to respond. So this is a good example of that. And I would take that under both consideration, especially consideration, building credibility and trust in terms of social media. Does anybody else have any examples?
Yeah, I would just say that, it, of course, it's changing because of, it can be a brand or a project. It can be how wide the consumer is, and hence what should be your top of your funnel to what should be your middle of your funnel. In terms of example, I think, one of the biggest learning we have realized is, when we think of a project or a brand, we would, go with the catchment area and the very stereotyped way of analyzing the consumer and, making those assumptions. And that's where, digital is so disruptive, because, the consumers are changing, the cohorts are getting added, the last 500 million internet users are different. And the learning is that the top of the funnel is extremely important for the next 3 or 6 months of your campaign, because it's a true litmus test of, who's your consumer, who's actually responding to you, who's actually interested in your property, and what he or she is actually wanting to see from you. And that is a time, running maybe 7 different campaigns works, because it gives you an idea of, or the differentiation between what you perceive of what the consumer wants to see on a project and what the consumer is actually wants to see. The second is, of course, once you go to that channel, you realize that, okay, out of the 100, maybe only 20 is what is really working for us. And that's the consideration phase where, at the middle of the funnel, where, we are very heavy on, just focusing on that 20 to not only show a certain kind of a communication, but all kinds of communication. I know that a lot of brands want to directly move into conversion, but conversion is good when you already know everything about the project, as consumer, as catchment, and you don't want to learn anything, and you want to limit yourself. But I think it's a learning, and that's something I thought we should share with you.
Yeah, I think a point that you made about trying to figure out what it is that the consumer is looking for, and therefore, shaping the communication accordingly is so important, which is why we do this A/B testing, right? To see what they're responding to, and then start focusing on what is drawing a better response, and so on. But I see that Sairam is unmuted. Go ahead, Sairam.
See, I think fundamentally in the entire digital marketing, one big change which has happened is the lines between brand marketing and performance marketing are getting blurred, right? Because end of the day, it's a full funnel, right? And you need both. It's not a either or. Of course, some brands might choose to say that I will start from ensuring that I completely exhaust my performance marketing, then build the brand, right? And some may choose to say, okay, I will build the brand once I have a certain amount of captive audience is when I will do. And some might, and this is what has historically happened. I mean, even if you look at digital, traditionally digital started as a performance media. Then digital had a stage where digital also was a media which was used for building brand. Now it's come to a stage where it's sort of like a full funnel. And the reason I'm saying is there are so many signals of, one is the complete measurement end to end, right? Today, it's very much possible. I mean, about 100 years ago, somebody said that I know advertising works. I know only 50% of it works. But that's no longer true.
Which 50% I don't know.
Correct. But that's no longer true in the context of digital, right? While there are 1,000 things to measure in digital because of the over measurement as an area, but if one were to choose to focus on the metrics that matter, it is very much possible. So this entire concept of full funnel, where you look at the brand, look at the audience and say, this is the way to go about, is here today for brands to use. And that is irrespective of whether you choose to do the full funnel from a typical paid ads perspective, or even a full funnel from an experiential perspective. Like today, if I'm hosting certain people to come and experience a certain event which I'm doing in a property, how do I use that and use that as a base to even do a one-to-one communication, either in email or a WhatsApp or whatsoever? That is still full funnel, right? So whatever you choose to do is still full funnel, and that sort of really becomes important in terms of how we use that and think in a certain way. What digital has done is completely accelerate that process. Gone is the day when you will say, I will create awareness for the first 3 months, then I will do performance after 3 months. No, that doesn't exist any longer, because at any given point of time, there is an in-market audience, whether it is for awareness or for conversion. That's the way digital has accelerated that entire process of learning and access of information being available.
Thank you, Sairam. You put that across very well. The full funnel awareness, consideration, and conversion in times past was like a theoretical construct, and it took some 6 months and then research and then all of that to actually try and figure out what was going on. Now, as you rightly pointed out, you not only can accelerate it, it can happen concurrently. You can do stuff at the awareness level while doing stuff at consideration and conversion at the same time. And you can actually manage a consumer down that funnel to the point of conversion. But again, it depends on your objectives, it depends on your budgets, it depends on your stage of life as a business or a brand. And in the case of real estate, of course, as a project. So if you have an overarching brand image, that helps every project, like Jayant pointed out. And at a project level, people relate to it based on their needs, but their trust is already established. So it's a very interesting time that we are in, where we can pick and choose what we want to focus on, like Sairam pointed out. Sumit, would you like to add to the conversation?
Yeah. So I echo, everyone's view. I am also a firm believer that, the digital marketing funnel is not a linear journey from awareness to consideration to conversion anymore. Because of, the immense information at disposal now, the funnel is now custom, non-linear path, which changes from one customer to another, right? The conscious choice of a consumer on any social media platform is never to seek information on a product or a service they're keen on buying. So thus, what we end up doing generally is a combination of organic posts plus paid ads focused towards increasing brand awareness, building brand engagement, creating recall, retargeting customers, already in consideration phase. It works naturally on, most of the social media platforms. So typically in our case as a co-working brand, what works best for later stages of the funnel are, customer reviews and client testimonials that help us move the needle in our favor.
Right. Sumit, thank you for elaborating on the content, because that's a nice and natural segue into the next question.
Hi, David. I just want.
Sorry, Jayant, go ahead.
That's fine. So I agree. So ORM is very, very key. So when you as an established brand, you have an established page when you are promoting now. So ORM, yes. If you are not answering the queries of the people on the page, and the page which is there for in some time, on the case of us, so we are established player now, and the people expect to be reverted, and reverted very, very quickly. As soon the post has been posted, the query, so that has been answered. So if you are answering them well, it's very difficult to answer them all, but if you're answering them well, your things are even you're taking the things to a CRM level also, and you are getting it sorted, their challenges, their problems. It really helps well. But when we talk about how this funnel helps to how you create awareness, एक घर की जरूरत है, आप एक opportunity create करके बता रहे, this thing is going to get available, right? So that storytelling, that content, that kahani is very, very important. So you're creating that opportunity, you are giving that product, and that product's credibility. then brand's credibility. That should be going hand in hand. And how well you are using these various platforms which are available in the social media platform is very, very important.
Thank you, Jen. You also talked about different kinds of content. And I like the fact that both Bharat and Jayant have focused on responses to consumer comments being a very important aspect of the content we put out there, because that's what helps us build credibility and trust in the way we deal with negative comments, the way we deal with positive comments. All of that adds to who we are as a company or brand. So, and I don't think we've looked at ORM and responding to comments as content, but from a consumer's point of view, that is more content he's consuming, right? So it becomes a very important aspect of the whole thing.
The ratio should be more. So the more you will engage in a positive manner,
correct,
that is going to help you.
Yep. And it's going to build the trust in the brand that they are willing to engage and have a discussion.
Yes.
Okay, so that also helps in providing a natural segue into the last question, and we don't have too much time for it. Can you give examples of the kind of content that has worked very well for you? It could be from awareness or from consideration. So we could start with Bharat.
Nothing comes to my mind immediately, but yes, I've always looked at anything which is human in nature, anything which talks about the experience, anything where engagement is there, anything which is response in time. All these factors are equally important, and there are day-to-days, every day's thing. It's not some large examples, but it's day-to-day, every day's activity.
Thank you, Bharat. I think we touched upon a number of things we've discussed through the time that we've had together.
Yeah.
We've talked about the human element. We've talked about testimonial. We've talked about, and Bharat has touched upon all those points.
One more thing I want to add is
go next.
One thing I want to add before that is not only that, I think so, as we might be experts in our real estate domain, there are social media experts also. And somewhere down the line, I don't know why sometimes we vary taking their help. And I think so, it is important and critical now for real estate companies to start taking external social media helps, social media expert helps. That I think so will help.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So who would like to go next?
So yeah, I think I can talk about. Yeah, Jay, you want to go?
Yeah, Poonam, please.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, of course, all of us know that videos are working really well, but what we are realizing is that UGC and especially the authenticity in the UGC content is very likable today. The whole format of, creating content, which was earlier an art and copy who would create a content for a real estate brand, is completely become disruptive. We are now thinking and doing building videos and views, which is like all kinds of testimonials to all kind of experiences into multiple formats of videos, which are like 6 seconds, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute, 3 to 4 minutes, because when you want to get into, you are now interested in the property and now you want to know more about it, you want to go to another channel where you want to view everything about that property. So what was earlier one post has become like at least 15 posts on one particular topic, on one particular project, and it's really helping. People are making, maybe they are going for a site visit, but they're making almost all informed decisions in the digital space. And I think that's what a social or a digital agency can help build businesses today. And that's what is working for us.
Yeah. Thank you, Poonam. You kind of played into the question that I asked, what kind of content have you seen working well for you? And today, I think what is really important is building that deep content for every stage of the journey and search engine optimizing it, because they are making very informed choices. Thank you. Thank you for that. Who'd like to make a comment? Jayant?
Hi. Yeah. So content is definitely going to be the very, very key as far as social media is concerned. And what kind of is content? Content is, as per me, which work for us is very well, is very simple lines, straight lines, which is getting connected to the consumer or whosoever is uh, consuming the material. What we are having aspiring flat owners. If we able to touch their pulse well, simple lines, for example, the simple lines which you're having for any real estate company, those lines we are using, like अपना घर तो अपना ही होता है, हर परिवार एक घर, किराए से आजादी. So we are having a lot of content around these lines. Lot of. So new lines, we have created life at Signature Global, what kind of life we are offering to people. And we are creating content as per the platforms, whether it's a reel, whether it's a post, whether it's a static post, whether it's a 6-second video, whether it's a very long secondary video, entire story, what kind of quality you are maintaining, what kind of certification you are giving. So if your content as well, which is available on a brand perspective over social media, it helps whenever you are doing any product promotion, any product you are coming with a launching, then you are having those benefits around your product. It really helps very well.
Thank you very much, Jen. So Poonam talked about, even at a product level, having more and more content and information to be able to make an informed choice. And you've covered content from a brand point of view, leading on to product. So that works very well. Thank you. Sairam, would you like to go next?
I think if you look at the choice of content, it's to do with two things. One, is it a top of the funnel or bottom of the funnel? Basis that the choice of content and the format in which the content is delivered changes, right? Like, for example, like the way Poonam was mentioning, typically videos work very well from a top of the funnel kind of experience because it's more interactive. It's more a lean back kind of thing. You can relax and sort of look at that kind of thing. Vis-a-vis when the consumer is in an active stage where, either the consumer is searching or reading reviews or looking at information related to multiple aspects around buying a house, in that kind of, it needs to be very short and crisp kind of thing, which will enable a very, very sharp call to action led kind of thing. And today what has happened is, because of this entire audience and data and signals kind of things which are available, let's say if there is somebody who's searching for amenities, then you can have a communication which is very, very sharp related to amenities, like X property has 15 amenities, click here to know more, equivalent kind of thing. I think that ability to, I spoke about relevancy in the beginning, right? That ability to slice and dice and make it far more personalized, if I may use that word. The personalized kind of communication basis what the consumer is looking at irrespective of whichever part of the funnel he's in, is more likely to, drive the business outcome for the brand.
Absolutely. Tailoring the content based on which stage of the funnel they're in and with what intent they've come. Yeah. So that's perfect, Sairam. Sumit, would you like to comment?
See, as advertisers, we read people are spending about, X amount of time on some platform, and we get excited, start posting, replicating content without considering that these people are spending mere seconds on what to say. I think, any content that make those X second worth their time, is the kind of content we do. How? By just creating a reaction. It could be a emotional tug, desire, quick laugh through a meme, or adding to their knowledge. Because on social, as Sairam mentioned in the initial part, the competition is not other real estate companies for us. It's all other brands, content creators, including those 19-year-olds making dance reels. So the best content packs which have worked for us as a brand, because we were just building the sector as well. The sector was coming up as a whole. It would be a mix of practical, the useful how-tos, the industry updates, the market understandings, and a mix of some kind of desirable, the lifestyle upgrade, influencer engagement, real stories of real people. So these are the things which have, worked well, the concise messaging, appealing visuals, and the right targeting. If we keep it that way, then we are able to, consistently throw our message to the viewers.
Thanks. Thank you, Sumit. I think you've touched upon again a very important aspect of social media, in that it is vital for us to reward the consumer in some way in terms of the content we provide. And the reward can be, I'm not talking about monetary or financial or an incentive in that sense, but exactly what you said, right? It could be humor, it could be something that's thought-provoking, it could be adding to their perspective, adding to their knowledge, challenging them in some way. It could be multiple things, something which touches them deeply. The reward is what they find the reason why they will consume that content. And the reward is why they'll engage with it. And if the reward is truly great, they'll own it. And that's when they share it, and it goes viral. So I'm glad you brought that up, because when we talk about content, it's vital that we understand the process which actually captivates the viewer to be able to engage with us as a brand. And so when we start out with our marketing objectives, when we distill what kind of communications we want, the objective should be, of course, the overarching intent, but in the content form and in the content storytelling, how well can we reward the viewer in some way becomes a key aspect of it. In many ways, this last question has really been a kind of a conclusion to our panel discussion, because content is at the heart of social media and the quality of that content. And I think some of the key things that have come out of this discussion has been that varying the content depending on where we are in the funnel, doing good storytelling, having real people talk about real things, simple lines that engage that the consumer can relate to, good response in terms of problems when they crop up. And it can also be if somebody says something very positive, the way we respond can be equally powerful. And I think if you follow Anand Mahindra on Twitter, you can see how masterfully that is done. So he kind of amplifies everything. If it's negative, he solves it. If it's good, he amplifies it. So it's a great way of doing things. One example I'll give you of this positive twist is somebody had tweeted at Anand Mahindra saying that just returned from South Africa. It's great to see the XUV 500 on South African roads. And he responds, thank you so much. Not just South Africa, we're in 40 other countries. Building the brand, building the credibility, building trust. I think it was a wonderful thing. So this brings us to the end of this panel discussion. We are very nearly at the 1 hour mark. So thank you, panelists. I think you all provided some very deep insights. And now social media is not a very easy topic to talk about because of sheer variety, right? It's about society, which is on digital. It's about human insight and what is going on there. But I think you unpacked it very, very beautifully and provided all the insights that are necessary for the audience to understand how it works. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so
Sapna,
much.
over to you.
Thank you.
It was indeed a very interesting panel. We have a lot of questions, but we'll be able to take a few only. So one of the questions is that social media is a very crowded space, cluttered space. How do you remain competitive in this space? So David, starting from you, maybe 1 or 2 ways, how do you stay competitive in this space, the social media space?
Yeah, I think to begin with, it is not about competing with anybody. It's about meeting your business objective. So if we are clear on what we want to achieve, who the people are that we are talking to, and what we want to say to them, it'll be relevant. And we'll promote it to those people. So you're not competing with anybody. You are getting across what is relevant to those people and what they're actually looking for. And then reward them in some way in how you present it to them, and they will engage.
Okay, so focus on your target audience and then look at rewarding them through your content and through your processes. Sairam, what do you have to say? How do you stay relevant, or how do you attract audience or stay competitive, as the question is on social media?
I think Sumit very well summarized that actually. It's about finding that, imagine if brand has a certain thing that they want and consumer has a certain thing. If both were to be like two concentric circles, there is a sweet spot of what the consumer wants and what the brand wants. It's about finding that spot and creating that content which is able to create value to the consumer, but not losing focus of the brand. I think that's obviously the spot that every marketer wants to be. It's not easy, but a lot of people are already doing it, and there are enough and more examples which can inspire and be used as guidelines.
Right. Not easy to find that sweet spot, but once you get that sweet spot between the two, I think that is how you will be successful on social media. Sumit, Sairam just quoted you what you have mentioned. So what do you want to add to that? How do you, be relevant and be competitive on this very challenging platform?
No, so Sapna, this has already been, so no new thoughts around on that. Just, know your TG very well, and, keep, rewarding the TG as, David mentioned, with the right level of, content, keep evoking the right emotion with them. And as a brand, be true around on things, so that's how, one can just be relevant, because what I see is people are looking at brand also as humans, right? On the other side. So even if you err, it's, always, good to also own up on certain kind of, those mistakes. So that's how, if you have a kind of a human face, people love that aspect and they more relate to you.
Okay, fantastic. So, brands are also human, what Sumit is saying, and own up to your mistakes and focus is something what Sumit is mentioning. Poonam, what do you have to say? How do we go about it in this space, this challenging space?
Honestly, there's not much to say, but yeah, as a social media agency, we are always thinking what's trending today and can we participate with some of them, not all of them, because obviously it has to resonate with your personification of the brand. Yeah, it's something which people are going to watch every day. So the freshness in content, in communication, and building the community has to be there. And if brands who can do that, I think they would definitely resonate with the consumers they are targeting with.
Okay, so freshness in content and staying relevant with times, in sync with times, to create that freshness in content. That is very important. Bharat, your last words, what do you have to say? How do you stay competitive in this challenging environment? You are on mute.
First is, you can't get away with fancy marketing lines anymore. It is the customer who's going to experience this, and you'll have to improve your experience and the product. Gone are the days where you could get away with a lot of rubbish, which is not possible today. So
Okay.
That's one. Second thing is, yes, you have to be responsive and you have to be quick in your responses. And like already mentioned, you have to be honest with your responses. There are always going to be some drawbacks. There are ways to handle it. You can be diplomatic about it. You can still show them the positive sides of it, and so on and so forth. Let me give you an example. There was a time when from one of the projects, people said there is a symmetry around it. I got the customer, took him to the site and said, look from your floor. Can you see the symmetry? He couldn't. So, there are ways to handle it, but definitely you have to be responsive and quick in responses.
Okay, so honesty and truthfulness, what Bharat is saying, and be quick with, engaging with your the communication. Jayanta, what do you have to add? How do you tackle the social media giant? You're on mute.
So competition is going to be definitely be there, right? So you have to be there. You are required to face all the queries, responses, where we talk about this online reputation management topic. When you are a brand, you are talking to them with a heart to heart, getting their queries solved, queries resolved. And besides that, yes, this is a very, very important platform, and this is going to be competitive day by day. And is only content and the kind of content which you are throwing in what kind of platform. So that I think required to be, sizes are definitely there. Sizes are different in all the platforms. So where video is working, whether a static post is working, where your content is working, and maybe a single line is working. So how well you are using those, so which will make you survive in the market.
Okay, so one size does not fit all, and that is how you have to customize your communication as per the platform that you're using. So I think the audience have got the answers from all our experts on the question. We do have a lot of questions, but we will probably take them offline with our speakers. But thank you all for that wonderful conversation. I think a lot of takeaways for us from this conversations. Thanks, David, for that wonderful moderation of this discussion and bringing the best out of all our speakers. Thanks, Sairam, for being here with us. Mrs. Sumit, Lakhani, Poonam for being here, Bharat and Jayanta for being part of this conversation and sharing your views and opinions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
On that note, thanks to all our speakers of the day as well for making this very first edition of Realty Plus Indian Digital Excellence Awards Virtual Conclave 2022. So exciting and thought-provoking, some very relevant topics that we discussed today and some very relevant information that we got from our speakers and some valuable takeaways for our audience. So thanks to the awesome audience as well for a lot of questions that they shared with us today. We could not take them up with our speakers because of the limitation of time, but we will surely get you the answers through one of our stories in the magazine very soon. So wish you all good health and well-being, and not to forget, tomorrow 4 p.m. will be the Realty Plus Indian Digital Excellence Awards 2022 presentation. So don't forget to log in on the same link to join in the celebrations and cheer the winners as they sashay down the virtual red carpet. So on that note, before we say goodbye, let me also remind you that along with this, its online webinars, Realty Plus has now started its on-ground events, and our upcoming event will be held shortly in June in the city of Ahmedabad. So we look forward to seeing you all very soon and connecting in person. But till then, thank you, God bless, and goodbye.